Well, thank you all for coming in this morning. Much appreciated. That was a really, really interesting previous talk there. It was super interesting just because I definitely know Marissa and I did not work 130 hours a week, that's for sure. We've got 4 extremely interesting panelists here. We're going to talk about innovation and the process of innovation. So we're going to start with right down the back here. Introduce yourself, Guy.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Guy Horowitz. I'm a partner with a venture fund called Deutsche Telekom Capital Partners. As the name might suggest, it's got something to do with Deutsche Telekom, and we're going to touch upon that later. It's Deutsche Telekom's attempt to innovate also on the venture capital, or the way they do investments, by basically letting us do whatever we want. So we like that very much. More about that later. Before that, I founded the Israeli Innovation Office, or Innovation Outpost of Deutsche Telekom in Israel, which is now 5 years old, and helping the organization change and innovate from within. And before that, I've done a bunch of startups and corporate stints, all of which related to our topic today.
Very cool. Amit?
And my name is Amit Shafrir. I'm Israeli based in the US. I spent many years working for large corporations, doing enterprise software and then consumer internet, and many years creating, building, selling, and consulting to startups. I have a couple of startups of my own right now. One is called Quiv, which is providing access to people of interest in return for a charitable donation to a good cause. And the other one is called My Care Clock, which is a technology allowing senior citizens to live longer safely in their homes. And I do a variety of other things, so I've done the gamut of very large corporation and very small 3-people startups. And I've seen innovation thrive and fail in both.
Excellent. Katarina?
My name is Ekaterina Navicka. I'm representing Latvia. The Latvian Startup Association started in .lv. What we are doing, we are creating the brightest ecosystem in the region. We have lots of surprises for all of you, I guess. And now we are working a lot to bring this awareness to people about what we have.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Maurizio. I'm founder of H-Farm. H-Farm is formerly founded over 12 years ago as an incubator. And today is a publicly listed company in the stock market. And it's a platform that drives innovation transformation for corporates and big companies, connecting with the outside-in ecosystem of startups. And we do a lot with the education, because education is the bridge between the new generation and the technology to transform or innovate. So that's about us.
Great. Okay, so I just want to get a sense of the audience here. So how many are in startups here? So good smattering. And how many in corporates, innovating inside corporates? Oh, so a big number. It's great. Okay. So that's a good mix. And then like design agencies and agencies like that. So, okay, right. Okay, cool. So good even mix. Okay, great. So we're going to kick off with firstly Katarina. We're going to talk about Latvia, just because I find Latvia great and fascinating, and Amit's grandfather is Latvian as well, so we have a whole connection going on. But tell us about Latvia, man. Like no taxes, right?
No taxes, yeah, the main thing.
Right, so all of you, no taxes.
Yeah,
right?
Basically, if you are a startup, you could not pay taxes, any taxes, corporate taxes, salary taxes. Well, VAT, you have to pay still VAT, unfortunately. Yeah, but maybe let's start. Latvia is Riga. Basically, I will talk about Riga because Riga is the capital, and it is in the center of the Baltics. We have a fabulous city, very, very European, as you could imagine if someone of you have been there. We have very good flight connections, like great airport, and Airport basically is a small city in our city because a year there is a turnover of 5 million people when we have only 2 million as, inhabitants in Latvia, which is twice more than when we have in Latvia. Yeah, but all those people that we have are very, very talented because we have strong universities, lots of hubs and co-workings and accelerators coming up right now. But the main thing we have done, we have united our voices like 2 years ago in the association, which I'm representing. Our members are startups basically and startup ecosystem players. And we have lobbied few very, very good things through a government, which is very supportive right now to the startups. So we have created a startup law and startup visa. Maybe I will start with startup visa because this is more common thing. Basically, if you are a non-EU based resident, you could come and just because of your wish to start a startup, you could come and start a startup basically without any almost very, very small paperwork. Another very unique thing that we have passed. Basically, that was the fastest law we have created from scratch in Latvia, is startup law. That means if you are considered as a startup, you could avoid paying taxes. You have possibility for 5 years not to pay any taxes on a salary or corporate income taxes and so on.
You mean avoid paying taxes legally?
Legally.
Legally,
Yeah,
yeah.
legally. Legally. Totally legally.
Opposed to the other
Unlike
method.
the other way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, have you any experience in the other way, or is that what you can share?
I know all the theories.
No, totally legally, and I could show you how, and we have stand-up Latvian Startup Association here as well. There are a few people who would be happy in detail to explain to you how you could not pay taxes as a startup.
Okay, well, I mean, so now we know where we all should go for starting up, definitely. Moving on to Guy. So tell us, Guy, disrupt or innovate? If you're starting off, what should you be thinking?
Right. So first, many people confuse innovation and disruption. They either think it's the same or that one necessarily leads to the other, which could be true. But then the question is, what leads to what? Should I first innovate in order to disrupt my business or the industry, or should I disrupt myself in order to innovate? And I think what we've learned in Deutsche Telekom in the several years that the organization has been trying to change the way it approaches innovation, a lot through partnering, opening up to the younger, more, let's say, fun startups. It's actually easier to disrupt than it is to innovate. Because innovation, especially when it goes to the core, to the main business of the company, is just very hard for people to digest. And sometimes it's threatening to their livelihood or to their jobs. So everyone is talking about NIH, the not invented here syndrome, saying, corporates fear or resent stuff that was not invented at home. I actually think the problem is more of an, let's say, NIC, right? Not in the core. As long as you're doing stuff on the fringes, it's fine. Don't touch, my main assets. So what we have been doing, and nowadays I'm on the venture side, but I spent quite a few years doing it from within the corporate, is basically trying to move fast and break all rules. I mean, Bruce made this, I mentioned Ben Horowitz's book, which I think is a great reading, regardless of my family connection to Ben, which is non-existent. I think what's really important is for the organization to understand that you've got to completely crash and thrash the way you do things on several aspects of your business, not just one. Many people say, oh, we're innovating. We have this nice hub where we have those startups coming in. That's not enough, right? You've got to have several of those spots or places in which you're really breaking and changing things completely. And one of them, at least, has got to be close to the core. If it's not close to the core, it's always going to remain on the fringes. So I'll give the example of Deutsche Telekom in Israel. We just had 50 leaders. So the entire board of Deutsche Telekom and all the leaders of the business units in Israel for 7 days. And that was hard. It was hotter in Israel than it is on stage right now, which is very hard. If you guys come over on stage here,
It's hot.
It's hot. And we had, hotter weather than that. And they went through the entire, let's call it journey of what it's like to be in Israel and to think outside the box and try to build a country, right, with all the threats and challenges. And when they were done, it was clear that the reason we are successful and the reason it makes sense to copy that is because we're innovating in the core. We're actually doing things different in the most important and most critical places. So in Israel, Deutsche Telekom has the investment arm, which I'm part of. We have people looking for startups and for ideas to implement in the core of our network, be it the 5G, which is what everyone is talking about, cybersecurity, which everyone is talking about again, even things like digital transformation. Every organization will tell you, we are doing digital transformation. We're innovating the way we're approaching our customers.
So how many investments do you do a year?
So as a fund, we do about 7-8 investments a year.
Is that seed, Series A? Is that?
We started off rather early. We gravitated very quickly towards the later, but we do everything. Today, we're announcing an investment in a company that is helping Deutsche Telekom and other enterprises change at the core, this digital transformation thing, a company called Dynamic Yield. So looking at you, the individual, as an individual rather than part of a group or a segment or a sector on your online experience. Mm-hmm. That's one example for how ideas can be taken from startups and implemented the core, but it takes the major undertaking, major embracing from key leaders. So having the board members embrace that, not just head of innovation or vice president, young startups do that, is super important.
So a few of us are going to be in Venice in a couple of weeks at H Farm, which is absolutely the coolest place on earth. Maurizio, just explaining, like when you went with H Farm from idea to execution, just explain how you did that. I'm really interested in the process that you went through, because starting a facility like that is really hard, and in Italy as well. And now it's become such a cool thing. And then, you obviously help corporates innovate as well.
Yeah, that's. I would say that H Farm, the story of H Farm, the life of H Farm, it's a journey, and fortunately, it's an amazing journey. But that's. We had two assumptions and 2 points since day first, and today is still the driving force. So one is the technology. That's as assumption, technology is going to have an impact in our day life. And if we go back, 2005 was really kind of vision, because the first 5-6 startups we had to invent. So there wasn't deal flow out of Venice to do startups. The second, it was more related with the human. So that's also reason of our H, the letter of H Farm, human factor. And the reason why to give such an importance to the environment. So to create an environment that at that stage was more creating the farmhouse of a next generation of entrepreneurs. Then I think H Farm was possible only because we are in Italy. Because we, as Italian, we just find unconventional solution. And yes, it's
Google H Farm on your phones if you want to see how cool this place is.
And the startup mindset, we did so many mistakes, but we learn every day and to be fast as a startup. I remember once I had a conversation with my friend Amit, and he told me on his first visit, and he said, it's interesting, but give me a question. It's if your model is based on investments, and are you able to offer unicorns to good investors from abroad? Because I like everything. And they say, very probably not. And so he told me, so you need to reinforce the value proposition of everything is here, because if you want to get startup and you want to convey good investment through your accelerator, you need to make sure, you can offer to the best investors. Otherwise, missing. So we say, oh, it's interesting questions. We need to figure it out something. We need probably to enlarge, not becoming only let's say, spot for Italian entrepreneurs. So we need to open. So to open, we need to get more, to be more appealing. So, and we started to consider, especially according with the market transformation and evolution over the past 3-4 years, and we started to consider that H-Farm is a perfect environment for big companies who's looking to address their innovation or transformation with the startup, but there's not communication. And we say, wow, we could be a successful platform to reinvent what could be the program. So asking startup to develop pilots, develop projects, leverage their technology to solve real needs of companies. Then just because corporates, it's very hard for them to invest money, build a portfolio like a VC because it's completely different approach, but they need, otherwise they collapse. So we redesign everything and we say, wow, could be interesting. We need to get also school. So basically, we are still now working on a plan which is more disruptive than one the market is expecting for us. So we are consolidating different things. We are going to, we acquired 6-7 more schools outside of our campus.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And we're looking now to buy some technologies in the learning because this can be more scalable because now we have to consider the scalability, not just the consolidation. So H-Farm, it's been possible because of Italy, because we are Italians. And the lack of the typical ecosystem took us in the position to say, in my opinion, there is 2 clusters in the world that would be considered really tech clusters. One is Israel, the other one is Silicon Valley. They took 50, 60 years to be there. Europe, in my opinion, is an amazing platform. We have so many things, but we need to approach a completely different way because the high density for technology, it's not like a cluster like you go to Tel Aviv or you go to Palo Alto. It's just completely different.
Yeah.
So being Venice, it's even more. So we need to find a way how to say, we need to find good values to enter into the ecosystem and play a game. And that's the story of H-Farm. That's until we're going to keep this story and this vision and this way of working, I think we keep growing.
It's great because, I mean, you're seeing great hubs like this, right? Venice, Latvia, just approaching things really differently, disrupting, understanding. You have a lot of great design companies and design thoughts in H-Farm.
It's part of the DNA.
Which is part of the DNA, which we don't see elsewhere. And no taxes, which is...
Perfect match.
brilliant. Yeah. No taxes, big internet, and you fly direct, which is great. And I think like more and more companies are thinking that way, right? I mean, definitely companies are thinking to go outside London. Amit, turning to you now, like consumer. I'm really interested in consumer. Now, so if someone comes along to you and has an idea to, in the consumer internet space, I mean, it's very crowded these days. I mean, do you think they're like, is that something you can do from Europe?
Well, let me start by addressing a couple of things that was said here before. If I may interrupt all the folks in the audience who are typing, looking at their phones, etc., and maybe I'll say a couple of words that may be of value to you listening. So the innovation and disruption that was mentioned here, these are great buzzwords, but I don't think that any successful startup, if you look back, when they started, that they had in their goals, we want to be disrupting, or we want to innovate. That's BS that you put later on as part of your pitch and when you try to do stuff. Most successful startups try to solve a problem, usually try to solve their own problem. If you look at, why can't I get a taxi? Oh, well, there's Uber. Why can't I get a hotel room? Well, then there's Airbnb. Small problem is no one starts out, well, I want to disrupt the world of this or that or the other. And those who do start this way probably don't end up anywhere in terms of success. So I really, whenever I see a lot of startup pitches and stuff like that, and whenever I get, we will disrupt this or that, I'm immediately put off by that notion, because really the difference for a successful startup is the internal drive of the founding team to do something that they want to do. And if the drive is to just be buzzword compliant, that is really not a great recipe for success. At least in my experience, I can't think of one successful company that started out that way. And we were talking about the road from idea to actually getting something done, and ideas are plentiful. Anyone sitting here has 12 ideas just in the last hours. And the difference is really in deciding to actually do something, not knowing how to do it. Like Maurizio said, they didn't know how to form this. They just decided we're doing something. That's usually the most important and most difficult part of getting somewhere. You mentioned Latvia. My grandfather, when he was 16 years old, decided to leave his place and go somewhere in the middle of the desert and help form what is now called the Startup Nation. Okay, that was a decision to get up and do something. And I think most startups start by, I want to actually do this. And a lot of them end up not doing whatever it is that they started and changing along the way and learning. And also the notion of that there is a recipe, how to get from an idea to, there is no recipe. There is no formula. If there was a formula, we'd all be just taking this formula and copying it, and there'd be just successful companies. What there is there is drive, there is passion, there is creativity. Creativity is really one of the main elements that come along and differentiate between the successful startups and the less successful, because you have to come up with different ways of doing things. Corporate innovation, usually the main problem that a corporation has is it's been doing something for a very long time, extremely successful. You don't want to touch that. I worked for a small startup called AOL, America Online, for many years, and they were doing $10 billion a year of business. You know what? Don't touch that. We know what we're doing, right? This is the core. Don't mess with that. And guess what? You know where AOL ended up. You know where Yahoo, big Yahoo, up. Where is it now? Together with AOL as part of the phone company. You can't be successful by trying to protect the thing that you have. You have to find innovation elsewhere. I think this is what Deutsche Telekom is trying to do. And so, again, there's no set formula. The main thing that helps people out is being creative and wanting to solve a problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, so talking of execution, I think one of the things that is dominating everything right now, particularly obviously in the Valley, but elsewhere, is culture. And of course we've got Uber, but the Theranos meltdown, the Hampton Creek meltdown, and so it's very interesting, right? And a lot of these companies are, maybe they're setting up culture wrongly from the start, and just want to ask you guys, what do you think about culture now in an organization, and how important is it? I mean, there was this drive at all costs, but 130 hours a week doesn't often develop great culture, which it didn't at Yahoo. So, what do you think, Guy? For when you're seeing companies now, how much is culture playing a part of what you're investing in?
I'd say all of it is culture. I mean, some of it is DNA, but but DNA is something you cannot change, right? You can try to implant DNA. We've seen attempts to do that in medicine, not very successfully, and I think in corporate culture, it's even worse, right? Because there's always going to be internal resistance. So if you accept that this is the DNA, trying to work your way around it and try to improve how the organ, how the body behaves under different situations. So one thing that I think is common to all the companies that you mentioned is them not being honest. And not being honest is not about lying to the public, lying to your investors, lying to everyone else. It's lying to yourself. And everyone says, keep yourself honest. That's important. Let's keep ourselves honest. But it's very hard to keep yourself honest, because sometimes when you're honest about your inability to innovate, your inability to think outside your box, and you're doing that internally on board meetings or in your own business unit, you're being singled out as a problematic person. Come on, are you saying that we're not good enough? Are you challenging me? Are you actually challenging yourself? You're part of the problem. You might be out of here. So for someone in the corporate, by the way, it could be top management, middle management, it could be just the employee. Hey, I'm not good enough, we're not good enough, let's talk about it in this room. It's something that's immensely hard to do. And I think that's what tells great companies from the rest, is their ability to keep challenging their own day-to-day. And if you look at, Uber is an extreme example, or Theranos, where everything was basically based on a lie. But take Deutsche Telekom, or take any of the corporates that you're working with. I think AOL is a great example. There was an elephant, a monkey, a pig in the room, and it was being danced around because it's inconvenient. We're going to lose our livelihood in a decade, or less than a decade. What do we do about, oh, come on, not now, tomorrow. So keeping oneself honest is the one thing about culture and the one thing about running a successful company that you could change despite and in lieu of a DNA that's already in existence.
It's a great thing. So, Katerina, with the companies in Latvia, do they, what are the startups like? Do they look at Silicon Valley and say, I want to be like Silicon Valley, or they say, I want to have our own DNA, we represent something?
Everyone wants to have their own DNA.
Yeah.
So basically what is unique about Latvian companies is that we are too small to concentrate inside the country. So from day one, you think about global market, and it could be even broader than Silicon Valley or Israel. Lots of people think nowadays in Latvia about China, Asia, and Russia because it's nearby, and we speak Russian language. But still we are with European thinking, and we understand the US, and we have, again, direct flight connections to both Singapore, US, and Moscow. So, and we understand that we couldn't stay in Latvia, so we think global, and the culture of our startups is always very open-minded and global thinking. Therefore, maybe we have this small but very compact and united startup ecosystem, because everyone understands that we have to cooperate. Basically, we cooperate a lot also with Lithuania and Estonia, because those startups understand as well. They come to Silicon Valley, and people know Baltics. They don't understand. Maybe Estonia is a bit different, but Lithuania and Latvia even sound similar, so no matter in the US. So you have to cooperate, you have to be open, and this culture is very, very, how to say, communication-oriented to people. Yeah, this is what we are inside, and definitely we are not, how to say, closed among creativity inside the team. People always go and speak and so on. So this is what we are, because we use this opportunity of being small nation, and maybe we are looking somewhere on Israeli and trying to understand how such a small, how we say, middle of desert became such a big startup nation. And we would like to be somewhere similar, but we would like to create our own reset. So we create our own path, our own strategy, and we look on where we are and what we could use as our advantages to become a global nation and global companies from, in the end, from the beginning to the end.
If I can add,
Maurizio, oh, sorry, mate, yeah.
No, I was just going to add about, I think culture and DNA are critical, but we need to not be hypocritical here. So Uber would not have been Uber, a 50 or 60 or 70 billion dollar company, without the culture that made it Uber. Okay, we can say it's not nice, we can say it's sexist, we can say, and all these things are correct, but it wouldn't have been a 70 billion dollar company, or 50 now, whatever the number is. So, as those who invested, I'm not an investor in Uber, I have no connection to it, but for the investors, that culture was good. And, you can stay away from it now. It was good when they bought it at $1 billion to $70 billion.
I actually agree with you, 100%.
And so, how to make it work and be a more positive place, a nicer place, and be successful? I don't know that there are correct formulas for that. I don't know that there are solutions for it. But you can't be hypocritical and say, oh, the culture is bad, but we like the value and profits that it gave us. Okay, so this is one word I want to say. I think that organizations have a DNA. Very, very few organizations have changed their DNAs, definitely bigger ones. It's always impossible. But the one element in the DNA of a company that I've seen that always works is if in your DNA you're paranoid, you're more likely to be successful. If you're always fearful for your business going away, then you're always looking for solutions. If you are willing to spend $1 billion or $19 billion on an acquisition, okay, if you're a Facebook and you're buying WhatsApp, because you're afraid of what's going to happen if you don't do that, then you're able to keep it up. If you're not, then you end up an AOL or a Yahoo, et cetera. And the last point I'm going to make is people should not shy away from their DNA. They should embrace it and figure out how to use it. If you're in Italy, and if you're Gucci or Prada or whoever it is with years of history doing something well, you shouldn't throw it away and say, okay, we will do something completely different because now is the time for... No, you should embrace that and figure out how to incorporate that into whatever it is that you want to do now. Because no one else, a small Israeli startup that is in the great startup nation doesn't have the history of Gucci or Prada or some other Italian designer. They don't have that. So they won't be able to embrace that and inject that into whatever they're doing. So I think, using your history, using your DNA, and building up on it is a way to go.
Well, the guy's been shaking his head.
I think he nails the right point. That because it's a culture. We can see a differentiation. Just exactly what you say. I see more in between the high tech or digital age companies, corporation, and non-tech or low-tech corporates that comes from the past, where is the main difference, there is a relation with the DNA, they have it. And the main difference is those new, let's say, disruptive, innovative, and so on, is because the culture is a platform. So they are a platform company, and they have APIs. So making acquisition, talent acquisition is part of the day life, which is exactly the opposite for the non-tech companies as DNA, as culture, but they're going to have other things. I think today, it's not looking, that's from my personal experience in dealing with them, it's not trying to get the old school companies try to change the jacket and trying to become, like Facebook and making this one, but that's find a way, and there is a lot of work to having merged the human resources and the innovation team. I see a lot of frustration inside those big groups because innovation department, if they have a good guy, they understand about the innovation technology, but they are frustrated because there's not integration, and you cannot have the people who comes with a different DNA or different mentality, organization of the company to really change it themselves. You need to find ways how the two things, the outside in and the inside culture, start generating, because as you mentioned, a young startup with a good technology needs some heritage, needs some market, needs some knowledge that's plenty. Just imagine the automotive industry out of Stuttgart in Germany. There is a value chain in terms of knowledge of everything. So we can see the difference with the typical high-tech mindset. So Tesla, they've been so fast, in 2-3 years they can get a new model, but also they are not only a car maker, they are also energy, they're also battery. So this is the real things which is the main difference. But some part of a reaction can come out because they have the knowledge, but they need to move toward a different approach. So I see in the future co-working accelerator going to manage inside the corporation, because today co-working accelerators, incubators are part of a value chain of the capital investment and startup. So we address some good teams to raise money after demo day. It's so many. I think every day is 200 demo days. Why not using the co-working and the accelerator inside the corporation with an agenda, 5 years, starting from a room, and then maybe to reverse the entire company in 5 years, where everybody executive goes and works with the outside in and so on. So this probably is going to be the picture
Yeah.
for
Absolutely.
the next year, 2 years.
And I was just seeing Daniel there. I mean, L. Marx runs very exactly that for John Lewis, BMW, and how many others? Like, yeah, right. So, but that's exactly right. That's where it's really,
You know,
really
because
well.
we do the same stuff.
Absolutely.
It's a
in Italy, yeah.
that's what I suggest for corporation. Try to open yourself and get a capsule
Yep.
from us and be there and be open. It's going to take some of the time. It's part of the evolution.
Yep.
But culture is probably, this is the
You guys
difference.
been dying to jump in here.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I'm more relaxed now than I was 5 minutes ago because I completely disagree to some parts of what Amit was saying
Well, that's
before. And
wonderful.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that's what we're here, right? Stating the banal and
It's
boring
okay to be
everyone
wrong.
death.
Becoming interesting.
Just
We don't
relax.
need to bore everyone. So I'm against what you said on 2 counts. And I think you were alluding to that. You said only the paranoid to survive, right? You know, we all read the book.
Great book.
I resent that, okay? I think paranoia is a terrible motivator. Greed is always so much better than fear. I want to be a freaking billionaire. I
You're
want
Gordon
to
Gekko.
cream the market. That's the right motivation. And all of those startups sitting here and all the agencies that are here and all the corporates are here, no one wants to survive. No one wants to fend off the competition. We want to win. And in order to win, you gotta want to cream the market. You gotta need to have a solution before everyone else or anyone else has it. So Tesla is a great example, right? The fact that right now automotive companies are all running into this self-driving car and whatever is because they are late, not because they're they have paranoia.
Absolutely.
So that's one. I think we should all believe that we can make money for our corporates, as startups to the corporates that we work with or that we serve, as agencies and service providers. It's all about making money. That's why we're here. It's not, I mean, yeah, do good and everything. We're going to talk about impact investments in a different panel. We're here to make money. So stop this paranoia nonsense,
The
right?
two are not mutually exclusive, because if you're assuming that you're paranoid to begin with, okay, then you won't get anywhere. But once you've gotten something, if you're not paranoid, show me one example where that was successful.
I want to keep making money. It's not about being, honestly, I mean, and you said something else which I really resent, and I apologize. I mean, I might have made a funny face, but you said the Uber culture was great for the investors.
Yes, it was.
So,
That's math.
some people count the money before they
The early
go
ones.
down the stairs, right? Which is, a terrible way because you can lose all your money just, before you hit the ground level, which is exactly what's going to happen with Uber if it doesn't change. So it's terrible for investors to have a company based on bogus assumptions and terrible culture. It's terrible because it's going to eventually, the truth is going to surface. So I don't want to invest in a company that's right now bloated and inflated because of all sorts of stuff that tomorrow morning is going to end up, reducing my shareholder
Uber-
value.
You're
Uber-
definitely not going to invest it at 70 billion, but if you invest
Forget the money. It's about the
$1 billion.
I don't want to do an investment or do my diligence. Say, this company, they're a bunch of crooks, but they're going to make me shitloads of money. Because that's not going to happen unless it happens to us. Sometimes, tomorrow someone will buy the company. But most cases, it's going to take some time. And during that time, all shit is going to come back to you, right? Sorry. So, is that it?
No, this is awesome, mate. This is great. So, I mean, you guys can just keep
Are
going.
you bored?
The rest of us will just chill out for a bit. So if we're just summing up now. So if I've kind of got the key things here. So greed is good, from Deutsche Telekom. Is
Greedy
great.
Germans, right?
Yeah, and only the paranoid survive. So we have greed and fear.
Just to be clear, only the paranoid survive is Andy Grove's Intel CEO and
Fantastic
founder,
book.
not myself. It's not my saying.
It is one of my favorite books of all time, though. I love that. It opens up with only the paranoid survive.
Only the
which I
paranoid survive.
Absolutely freaking believe in. And then we have amazing talent and no taxes, right? Is Latvia.
Paradise.
Paradise.
Startups.
I mean, seriously. I thought Singapore was great, but
It's
I'm
old.
moving
It's old.
on.
The old story. We are
Yeah,
new
it
story.
is. I'm definitely moving on. And then humanity.
Yeah.
How do we sum up H Farm? How do we sum it up? Like, what's the
The pitch.
mission, the goal, the
It's a people environment. It's all about people. Interdisciplinary. We have kids right now. We have 3,000 kids doing summer camp. Having the students who believe to build their future be pretty much connected with a new mindset. of future workforce, having the corporates be around because they can bring their value. So in the end of the day, you're going to have the Kinonet that we run 200 events here. Everything comes all together to build an environment. It's every day at H-Farm is like today here at Unbound. So it's a people, it's a zoo. It's we can define whatever we want, but it's about people. And that's part of our mission. It was like the human behavior has been adapting to the technology for so long time in the past. Then now technology has to adapt to our behavior, so we need to be pretty much centric. So we inspired by the human philosophy, and this is the two driving force that everything is changing every 3 months at H-Farm, because we try to keep up and try to grow, and things change fast. But those two elements, technology and the humans, that's the 2 points that for us is the 2 pillars.
So on that very upbeat notice, Will, thank you very much.